So, I feel like it's fair to say that this episode, The Lion and the Wolf, which is an hour and 20 something minutes long, the longest episode of Game of Thrones, pretty much the same length as a short movie. This is one of the greats. I'm not going to say it's the best episode, because my mind is still just kind of not sure what's going on right now, because I just finished it. There are definitely things about this episode that are much better than last episode, and there are things about last episode that are much better than this episode. I think that the one thing we have to sort of talk about the most in this episode is sort of how last episode was kind of showing us that Game of Thrones has kind of evolved, you know, from a show about politics and sort of backstabbing and all that to sort of a Lord of the Rings level epic. And this episode has actually kind of reminded me kind of the roots of Game of Thrones, you know, all the backstabbing and all the scheming and the plotting and all the dramatic conversations between one character and another. And in many ways, that is what I love most about Game of Thrones. I mean, even though this is a show that has some of the greatest battle scenes, some of the best action set pieces ever, and I'm not just talking about TV, I'm talking about films as well. The thing that sets Game of Thrones apart from every other show is the characters. And we get to see so many characters portrayed so well, written so well in this episode. So that's my biggest takeaway from this episode, is that even though Game of Thrones has evolved into this Lord of the Rings level epic, it still hasn't forgotten its roots. And that's, I think, a problem that a lot of people have had with the last episode, and that's a problem that has been sort of, I guess, fixed with this episode. So let's start from the beginning, because this is probably the most content-filled episode we've ever had. And I'm still sort of finding it hard to wrap my mind around it. So let's see. We start off with Bronn and Jaime and the Dothraki and the Unsullied, right? Now I just want to give a quick shout out to the composer of Game of Thrones, whose name I can't pronounce, but I'll just put it right down here. And this is one of the best uses of the Game of Thrones score. Just this entire episode, especially this first portion right here, it is beyond incredible. The dialogue that Bronn has, Jerome Flynn, is just great as always. This is an episode of reunions. And this is a season of reunions. Not only characters seeing each other after a long time, but characters seeing each other for the first time. Too many to count. When I do my best moments of the season video, which I'll be working on right after I film this, reunions is going to be a big thing in there. But yeah, we had a ton of reunions, and my favorite was probably the Hound and Brienne. It was just so great. And I love that, you know, their main sort of point of, you know, talking was about Arya and how, you know, the only person who would die is the people who get in her way, and I love that so much. And obviously you have Euron in his like biker's leather jacket with stars on it again, and he and Theon have a little bit of a thing, and also the Hound, the Mountain, sort of, I guess, foreshadowing, you know, one of the things that fans have been wanting most, which is Clegane Bowl, which I think is definitely a possibility next season. And obviously when the Hound brings out the White Walker and charges straight at Cersei, I mean, whoa, and just, whoa. And I love that when they were sort of doing the demonstration of the White Walker, the person that was by far the most interested was Qyburn. It was just such a great character moment right there. You have one of the most intense scenes of dialogue I've ever seen, in which Tyrion comes to speak to Cersei. And I'm telling you, whenever the Mountain is in the room with Cersei and someone else, and we're going to get to that Jaime scene later, it's just makes for like so much more tension, so much more. It was just so great to see Pete Dinklage and Leah Headey in a scene together like that, you know, and it was just great. And obviously after that you get to see Jon and Daenerys have a little bit of a moment there, I guess foreshadowing the end of the episode. Then Cersei and her group come along and they say, Cersei does probably one of the most like heroic things possible, you know, like, I don't care about this, you know, I'm just going to move my armies to the north to help you guys fight. And I'm just like, this is way too good to be true. This is not Cersei. If it is Cersei, she's probably drugged or something. And obviously it isn't, as we find out later in the episode. But first, I want to talk about Theon's sort of redemption arc, because I feel like Theon in this episode was one of the most surprising things. I didn't expect to see that much of Theon, and obviously you see him sort of beat up that guy, and they do that thing, you know, where like, and they always do this in films, you know, the guy like gets kicked in the balls, but he doesn't really feel it. And obviously now Theon is going to go find Yara, probably going to try and kill Euron with his group of Greyjoy people. And that was a really nice redemption arc. Obviously before that he gets that incredibly emotional conversation with Jon, and Jon says, you're a Greyjoy and a Stark, and it's just perfect. I think it really does a good job of sort of wrapping up the character arc for Theon. Obviously we're still going to see him next season, but it's nice to see, you know, Theon get some sort of closure, I guess. A lot of characters get closure in this episode, to be honest. Which brings me to possibly one of the most satisfying deaths in Game of Thrones. I'm talking on the same level as Viserys, on the same level as Joffrey, on the same level as Ramsay. Little fucking Finger. You absolute snaky bastard. He is finally dead. Now, before I talk about all the stuff leading up to this, I just want to give a massive shout out to Aidan Gillen, who plays Littlefinger. He's such a great actor, and this is probably some of the best acting I've seen from him in this episode. And obviously we get Sansa and Bran and everyone calling in Arya, making it look like they're gonna sort of do something to Arya. And just as we kind of expected, they pull the rug right underneath us, and they're like, Littlefinger, you're the one who's getting fucked here. And Aidan Gillen's acting, Sophie Turner's acting, all the acting in that scene is just on point. On point. And obviously, you know, you get Sansa calling out Littlefinger and all the stupid, nasty, snaky shit he's ever done. And Arya is kind of like, and then just like ends Littlefinger like that.
Get down, girl, gon' head, get down. Get down, girl, gon' head, get down. Get down, girl, gon' head, get down. Get down, girl, gon' head.
And it was just such a simply done death, but it was elegant in its simplicity. And this was such a satisfying moment in an episode of so many satisfying moments. I'll get to my personal most satisfying moment just in a bit, but that was just brilliant. And then we obviously have Jaime and Cersei in another tension-filled conversation with the Mountain standing right there. Jaime realizes that Cersei's fucked everyone over. Jaime has had enough. He's just done. And Cersei says, you know, you're going to go pick up the Golden Company. Cersei is still being unnecessarily, stupidly difficult. And Cersei almost gets, you know, the Mountain to kill Jaime. Jaime knows it's not going to happen, but that was still so much tension. And this is probably my personal favorite sort of character, sort of smaller moment in the episode. And it was just so satisfying to see Jaime, a character who has for so long been sort of a pawn in Cersei's game. Seeing him get his shit together, really. I mean, it would have been nice if he brought Bronn along, but just seeing Jaime ride by himself, not in Lannister army, not in Kingsguard gear, just casual, you know, peasant outfit to a certain extent, riding up to the north. He wants to help. And next season, seeing all these characters come together, and Jaime being one of them, she's one of my favourite characters. Jaime, oh by the way, his reunion with Brienne was so great. And I can't wait to see the direction that they bring Jaime in next season. I'm just, that's so great. And obviously we have probably the two biggest things in this episode are obviously the two last things in this episode. You know, you have Sam coming back to, you know, meet Bran. I think most of the comedy in this season has come from Sam, and I think John Bradley, the actor, has done such a great job this episode yet again. And obviously the character of Bran kind of seeing a little bit of emotion come through when he sees Samwell Tarly, and that was great. But obviously you have the Rhaegar Lyanna, you know, reveal, essentially solidifying to people who may not have understood what happened last season that yes, Jon is the son of a Targaryen. And is it just me, or is the guy who played Rhaegar in this episode the same guy who played Viserys? It looks like really similar. I think his name's like Harry Lloyd. I don't know, maybe I don't know, maybe they all look the same or whatever. That maybe they purposely cast him to look the same, but you know, that was obviously a great scene. However, I would have liked to see, because it's such a long episode, I wish that we had gotten a little bit more Rhaegar, like maybe sort of like a longer, more extended flashback. But obviously now it is confirmed that Jon is heir to the throne, and obviously all this has sort of been voiced over when Jon and Daenerys have that scene together. That's obviously great, but it's also kind of uncomfortable considering the fact that people are probably going to start cheering when they see that. But when, you know, Jaime and Cersei do it, they're like, oh, that's disgusting. So I'm not really sure how fans' reaction, how your reaction is going to be like. But I thought that, you know, that's fine. It's just fine. It's a little bit weird, but yeah, it's pretty good. You know, seeing the two biggest main characters come together, literally, and obviously you have Tyrion kind of standing in the shadow. I'm not sure what they were insinuating from that, but yeah, it's just a good sort of ending. Arya and Sansa sort of, you know, uniting, and it was also great. But then we have sort of this is how I predicted that the season would end. It was that the wall would come down, and obviously a portion of it did come down, and that dragon, man, that dragon is going to be a massive fat shag next season. It's really fast as well, and there's like the blue flame, like the blue ice flame. That was so sick, and I love how they're like in the wings. It kind of has like holes. It reminded me of like the what's it called? the dragon from World of Warcraft, you know, the Lich King one. If you play World of Warcraft, you get exactly what I mean. But yeah, so that is probably the perfect ending, I would say, because with pretty much every single character, we get a sense of closure, but we kind of get a setup of where they're going to go next. And obviously with the Night King coming south of the wall now, obviously we don't know what happened to Tormund and Beric. They're probably dead, but they're probably alive, we don't really know. But that's one hell of an ending to one hell of a season, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit more in depth when I do my best of the season, sort of top 20, top 10 moments, whatever. Yes guys, thank you very much for watching. Please stay tuned for that top 20, top 10 moments. Thank you as always for watching guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed that fucking masterpiece of an episode just as much as I did. Thank you.